over to you.
Great. Thanks, Helen, and thanks everybody for joining today. Really appreciate your time. Looking at the names and roles of you guys that have registered and joined the event, I can see that we've got lots and lots of Opsview Monitor users, system administrators, and so on. And probably looking at some of the names, people who know more about Opsview Monitor than do I. Luckily, I've got Brent along as well today on the webinar. As Helen said, please do put your questions into the chat facility. We'll do our best to answer them if we see them flying by, if it makes sense. Probably more likely we'll get to them at the end. So yeah, please do put those questions in there. Right, let me move on. So I guess the first question is, what's in it for you? Why listen to the next sort of 25 minutes or so? And then off into the future, what are the benefits here? I thought we'd have a little look at sort of stop, start, and continue. So some of the things, if you move from Opsview Monitor to Opsview Cloud, some of the things that you can stop doing are installing patches and fixes to Opsview Monitor. No need to update the operating systems that you're running Opsview Monitor on, or refreshing your internal hardware where you're running your monitoring. The one that you and we spend a lot of time helping you do is upgrade from one version of Opsview Monitor to another. No need to do that anymore if you move to Opsview Cloud. And again, there are plenty of you that run multiple deployments to ensure high availability or disaster recovery and so on. Again, move to Opsview Cloud and you can stop doing that. And I was talking to one of our guys in customer success earlier on, and he was saying, well, yeah, one thing people can do is stop having headaches from the monitoring platform. A little bit tongue-in-cheek, but he's probably right. So, the question is, if you're stopping doing those things, well, you might actually read that list and go, that's fantastic, Scott, enough. Where do I sign? Probably more likely you'll be asking, well, hang on a minute, who's going to do all of that then? And we'll come on to that in a second. Perhaps first you might be asking, well, if I don't have to do any of those things anymore, what are the things that I can start doing? And some of this is really quite timely. I know we've spent a lot of time as a business looking at business continuity. People are working in different places. What happens if a huge event happens to us as a business? What do we do? And we've reacted to that, but we've also put in place a lot of new processes that we've been looking at, and that includes our IT ops team spending a lot of time looking at that to make sure that all of our systems are up and running. Lots of our customers as well, whether that be in sectors that are quite hard hit, like sort of retail or hospitality, transportation, are really breathing new life or additional momentum into their digital transformation programs to invest in just new ways of doing business. And the last thing, actually, I was reading today just in a report, I think 65% of network professionals are concerned about network capacity during the pandemic. And I've certainly had my internet drop out a couple of times at home today just to make Helen feel a little bit nervous. We've also got people trying to make the most of MS Teams as well, and Zoom and WebEx and so on and so forth. So, I know that our IT ops guys are spending more time on those things for us as a business. So you stop doing something, you can start doing these. We'll take a look also at how you can reduce your security risks by moving to Opsview Cloud and reducing costs as well, potentially. I think one not to underestimate is, seeing us as an extension of your monitoring platform and team in some respects. As many of you do already, we will take care of a whole load of things that we'll go through, allowing you to stop doing some things and start doing some others. So, first question is, well, what does Opsview Cloud look like? How does it work? As you'll see, there's lots and lots of things that are very familiar. So Opsview Monitor, as you know, very broad and deep monitoring capabilities, whether you're monitoring things in your data center and your private cloud virtual machines, containers, whether you're doing it in the public cloud, and being able to monitor across all of those, no matter where they are, has always been and continue to be a strength of Opsview Monitor. What we've started to see over the last couple of years is that customers are deploying Opsview Monitor in their own cloud environment. And so we thought, well, we could do that as well. And not only can we do that, but top right, our experts then can make sure that your monitoring platform is always up and running, is always up to date, no more Sev1 issues with your monitoring platform at 2 a.m. on a Saturday morning. And you know who you are if you're listening in. Leaving your IT ops experts, you people listening in today, quite frankly, to that whole headache. That's real hands-off monitoring platform. So we provide that. Brent, do you want to sort of provide a little bit of color around that?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. So the architecture is pretty much what you know. Two-tier. We have orchestrator, and then we have collector. With our newest version of Opsview Cloud and version 6 of Opsview Monitor, we've moved to the ability to give you a TLS encrypted connection between orchestrator and collector. So we're utilizing RabbitMQ, and you can actually backwards compatible with an SSH connection. So RabbitMQ over SSH if you didn't want to open up all the ports, if you just wanted 22 to go across. But it's very much the same mechanics of what you're used to, whether you're connecting to an API on a public cloud, a private cloud, or you've got a local collector in an enterprise data center talking to system servers, virtualization, maybe some legacy mainframe type information there as well.
Great, thanks. And I know in a moment you're going to take us through lots of things that are very familiar. What we want to do really is get everybody on the same page just for a moment. Opsview Cloud is, in many respects, Opsview Monitor in a cloud environment that we put a service wrap around in order to help you, as I say, to ensure high availability of your monitoring platform. And there's a whole bunch of other benefits that we'll go through around security and cost and up-to-datedness and everything else. But Brent, could you sort of get us all on the same page in terms of the things that people will be really familiar with that they will also see in Opsview Cloud?
Right. So as we start to look at some of the functionality, kind of the fun part of Opsview, where it all starts to come together, these dashboards are very easy to create. It's a drag and drop menu selection. You can pick the system, you can pick the service check. And in the example here, we see we're looking at some key network statistics, some Windows servers, some Linux servers, and then a high-level BSM summary. So that's a vertical slice of your infrastructure. And if you drill down on one of those, you can actually get what's in error with that system. So you don't care about all the servers that are potentially have some sort of a critical alert. Only the ones that would impact the high-level business services there. Role-based, context-sensitive. As you log in, you can see as little or as much as you want. So very, very easy to create and very easy to maintain. As we drill down, we have the navigator view that you're familiar with in the next slide, Scott. That is, it shows you kind of the diversity of what can be monitored. So we're doing everything from containers to websites to public cloud, software-defined networks. We've even got a solar site that we're monitoring for electricity production. And this is a drill down view. So if you get from that BSM view that we talked about, we'll talk a little bit more about that coming up in a few slides. That gives you the ability to pinpoint what exactly happened. So if an application is in error, what was the cause of that? How can we find that needle in the haystack and get your IT staff resolving that issue? IT industry, traditionally we spend about 80% of our time trying to triage and isolate the issue. And then once it's found, those IT experts are very quick at resolving things. But we're cutting down mean time to repair at that point if you can drill down to that level.
So I'm just going to check that you're seeing the navigator screen there, and I'll click on you if you now see the process map. I think there was a little delay there, but all good now.
Okay. So this really is a useful type of view where the process map that you're seeing on the right-hand side there is actually just a JPEG image. So that can be some sort of a logical diagram of an application. It can be a geographic map. It could be a data center floor plan. And then the service icons that you see on top are just dropped on. You can create those based on a BSM, based on a host group, based on a single service check. hashtag any one of those. So it's a good way to put that kind of context of what's being monitored. Invariably you have an application team that understands their vertical slice of the infrastructure as it relates to serving their customers, but not necessarily the back end. So this can put it in that context. And again, you can wrap that around other data, performance graphs and BSM views as well. So very useful view.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Brent. Now, I'm hoping that most of you listening in are saying, yeah, I know all of those, and we know some of you use BSM, we know some of you use process maps. Absolutely certain you all use performance graphs and the dashboards and so on. So lots of things that are absolutely familiar to you. And as I said a few slides ago, Opsview Cloud and Opsview Monitor, at a first glance, are exactly the same. And, at a point in time, that's absolutely true. Maybe I'll do this one first. That's absolutely true. So with Opsview Monitor, as you know, we do a major release every sort of 6 months or so, depending on the size of the sort of changes that we're doing. Moving from version 5 to version 6, 10 times improvement in performance, the new architecture allowing greater scalability, and all of those sorts of things. So at a point in time when we release something like version 6.3 of Monitor, for example, that had and has exactly the same functionality as Opsview Cloud did at that point in time. But since then, we've moved with Opsview Cloud to be much more continuous, functional enhancements, continuous integration. So we have 2-week sprints, like a lot of people, and new functionality is available every 2 weeks to Opsview Cloud customers. So those of you that have already made the move to cloud, you're getting those continuous functional enhancements every couple of weeks. And we'll have a look at some of those in a second. All of that goodness is stored up, and if you're on Monitor, then you fit into the release cycle. So some features that are available in cloud, maybe in the first month of that, are available a few months later with Opsview Monitor 6.4. So how do we make that happen? I'll just go back a slide here. The reason that happens is because we take care of upgrading and maintaining the software that's available in the cloud. So as engineering delivers a drop every 2 weeks, that gets loaded into Opsview Cloud and is available. And that's nice in terms of nice new shiny functionality and fixes as well that you're asking for. The other thing, and we'll drill down into this a little bit in a second, is that as we discover vulnerabilities, we release security fixes, and that's something that currently with Monitor, you'll be applying those. Well, actually, we'll apply them for you with Cloud. Again, I touched on it earlier. If you're managing high availability, if you're looking at disaster recovery, for example, well, we take care of that with Opsview Cloud, and also 24/7 support is included as standard with Opsview Cloud. The other thing is this gives us a view across lots and lots of installations of Opsview Cloud as well. And one of the things that we work very hard on is really understanding best practice. So what is it that people do? What do they do every day? What do they, what's the best practices that they're uncovering? And we try to build that into the installations of Opsview Cloud. So that's a real added value, added benefit. So when earlier on I was saying that there's a bunch of things that you can stop, well, it's our guys that will take over all of those things, and we'll have a little look at that. So I went through this one in terms of the functional enhancements. I love this diagram. Brent's going to take us through it in a second. As I say, as we are releasing functionality every couple of weeks with Cloud, our cloud customers are getting access to, I call it wonderfulness. There's a lot of hard work I know gone into this. Brent, take us through this. I love this.
Yeah, this is a fun one, Scott. So really, it gives you at a glance and levels of drill down, as we'll show in just a second here. But you can see just quickly, your e-commerce application is significantly impacted by the Azure VPN service. 3 other services have some calculation rules set to those. Those subcomponents are actually healthy and providing service. There is some risk there. You see that by the number of icons behind that. And as you look very closely, you see kind of a gray shaded section. That is the operational zone. So those have to be operational for that that subcomponent to be healthy and participating in the business service. So very useful view here. As we drill down a little bit further, you see another type of visualization where the core services, again, we're providing the business service. It is healthy, it's online, it's 100% available, but the Windows AD subcomponent service has some impacted systems underneath it. The calculation rules are set up that it can detect those, yet not show that the business service is an integrated state. So very useful.
I love this because when you drill down onto this happens, doesn't it?
Yeah, you can really explode that out and look at what the systems are. And this is the level of drill down we talked about, that you can go from a high level business service down to the individual system and the individual service check that is in error, and you can get the right team involved. Maybe it's the system administrator team, maybe it's the AD group, maybe it's an application team. You can really dispatch the right people there. And that's to say if you're kind of investigate mode or troubleshoot mode here. There's also out-of-the-box integration with incident management tools. So if you wanted to automatically create a ticket in ServiceNow, in Jira, in some of the major platforms, that's all included functionality as well. So you can really codify those to repetitive events, get auto-ticketed, and ones that need a little bit more troubleshooting and triage work can be used here. In the next view, I think we talk about, problem view. So we can actually put a filter there and say, that's great, I see the universe of all the systems that are healthy, just show me my problems. Almost like a heat map, where you can show the core services, Windows AD, all the way down to the runaway process, total files, and zombie processes that are impacting, and you can work on those. It's not an emergency, you know that, because the core services are still green at the top, yet there's still some underlying issues that you want to resolve as quickly as you can, so those don't become service impacting.
I'm just going to do this one more time because it's fantastic. So explode out and then get to really the heart of things. So new BSM, or BSM 2.0 as we call it, that is something that we're just doing some final testing on this week actually, and that is available to cloud customers. So if you want to have a look at this, then I think this is wonderful. But there's more wonderfulness as well, isn't there, Brent?
Absolutely, wonderfuless. So our Cisco UCS Ops Pack, we're quite proud of this. Put a lot of time and effort working with customers, working with our internal Ops Pack team dedicated to turning out these Ops Packs. So keeping you abreast of the latest and greatest with the vendors out there that are releasing new functionality. Here you can see a dashboard that gives you a high-level view of, I think we're showing some blade processors in the top, a filtered event view where you can look at the status of your chassis, your racks, even some custom checks that you can do and extend that. A hashtag tree. So if you can put hashtags together, maybe it's the UCS components related to customer A or customer B or location X or Y. You can really show that and display that in this customizable dashboard for internal operational teams or even external. We have a lot of managed service provider customers that use these and create portals for their external customers. So lots of use cases here. As you drill down and get into the next slide here, it shows kind of departing from that high level view and down into more of a triage mode, where you see the actual statistics behind those service icons in the higher level, and you can see the measurements. In the smaller screenshot in the lower left-hand corner, you actually are running that Cisco Check UCS script, and you're seeing the metrics as they come back off of that individual device. So if you want to do a sanity check and figure out, well, I know it happened at the last time the service check ran, but what about right now? Is it happening now? So that's a part of that triage. And from here, ticketing, you could escalate this, whatever your workflow is from there.
Brilliant, thanks. And again, I'm hoping that most of you, recognize, clearly the screens, but the content's different. So again, with BSM, some really nice enhancements there. And if you have UCS kit from Cisco and you want to monitor that, again with cloud, because we release this when it's been tested and QA'd, we put this into the cloud environment and it's available immediately for people. We sweep all of this up, so if you're not on cloud, then you'll get this in monitor 6.4, which is currently scheduled for just after the summer, probably end of August, early September. So again, you will get access to functionality earlier by switching to Opsview Cloud. So that's the sort of the functionality. So we'll take care of a whole load of admin, applying functional changes, applying security fixes, which I'll come on to right now. And we'll run a lot of the administration of the platform as well. But I wanted to focus a little bit on security for a few different reasons. As you know, over time we release software. I talked to somebody who was on version 4.3 actually a couple of weeks ago. Thanks for your loyalty. It's better for you and better for us to get you onto the later versions. We know that some of you are still on 5.4, which has been deprecated at the start of the year, and therefore unsupported. The supported versions that are out in the market, version 6 onward and cloud, that we're talking a lot about today. As time has gone on, we see more and more sophisticated security attacks, on us, on our customers, and we have to be right at the front end of all of this. So, we're continually identifying and responding to new threats and providing security enhancements. Now, again, if you're on monitor, well, if you're in one of the grey versions there, we don't normally produce security fixes for those. Exceptionally maybe, but that's not really what we want to do. We want to get you onto the latest versions. If you're on monitor, we'll send you those fixes, and as you know, you'll apply them yourselves in a hurry usually, because we want to make sure that any gaps are closed. With cloud, we'll do that for you. So there's no need to almost concern yourself about that. Of course, we'll tell you about this. We have release notes and we have windows when we're doing the installations and so on, that you'll be completely transparent to you. The other thing is that the operating systems and so on that you probably run monitor on, that they're the same as well. The operating system providers, the software packages that we depend on and you depend on, they're doing the same thing. They're identifying, responding to threats. So there are lots and lots of compelling reasons. First of all, to make sure you're on one of the supported versions, version 6 onward. And I'd recommend 6.3 if you want to stick with monitor. But with cloud, again, not only will you get reduced admin, not only will you get new features, but you'll get this security fix is always up to date, always applied by us, and that includes everything that's happening underneath in terms of the operating systems and so on and so forth. A couple of other things as well is because some of our newer customers are operating in even more secure environments, we've actually added some external penetration testing as well. So we have a third-party company really push Opsview software through some very rigorous tests, give us a report, and if there are any gaps identified, we fix those and turn them around very quickly. And again, if you're monitor, you'll get those as a patch to apply, but with cloud, we will just do it for you. And I was talking to somebody who was on version 4 a few weeks ago, and actually it was their security officer that had popped up and said, we need to make sure that all of our software is something that's supported and something that's post GDPR legislation, something very important in the UK and Europe for sure. So again, if you're on one of those grey versions at the top there, move yourself onto at least version 6.3, and again, cloud is just the better. Your security officer will probably have a view on this, so it's definitely worth taking a view on that. The next thing is that somebody sent me this. It's an iceberg. It took me a moment. Is that as you're moving maybe many of your Office applications, so maybe Office 365 or Jira or Salesforce.com, all of those are now available and running in the cloud, and that's just the way that we're all doing things. You have gone through this cycle of looking at, well, what are the cost benefits? What are the time benefits? What are the licensing and upgrading and administration benefits? And so doing this sort of total cost of ownership calculation based on, either, again, what are your Office applications, or maybe your own business critical applications that you're running, the software that you provide to your customers. And moving that to the cloud, I'm sure you've gone through this same sort of total cost of ownership kind of comparison. Lots of things below the waterline here around applying fixes and patches that we've spoken about, around performance tuning we've spoken about, around customizations and integrations that we haven't really spoken about, but again, we take care of that as part of the cloud service, all of that upgrading. So, we see a lot of similarities in moving from Opsview Monitor to Opsview Cloud. And this was something that somebody sent me as they were talking about moving their Office applications, 365, Jira, Salesforce.com. Now, we've got a slightly different take on that. We call it total cost of on-premises, so sort of hijacking TCO, total cost of on-premises. So, you might already be comfortable making the case to move from on-premises to cloud, but there's some other things to consider here, however. Brent.
Thanks, Scott. Yeah, so some of the things you want to consider here are, certainly the costs. Some of those are quite evident. When you think of running something on site, you immediately think of hardware. Oh, I need a server, I need a virtual machine, something like that. Maybe not as thought about is the software. Software licensing for the OS, for the database, for what have you when it comes to running an in-house application. The power, the cooling, the data center floor space. There's a lot of things that can come into play there. And who are those people that do that? How many people does it take? How long do they work on that? And then if you need to switch something out, upgrade something, do you have hardware inventory sitting in storage? Do you have enough capacity that you could provision that up? That's something that the Opsview Cloud kind of takes away for you. The time that's considered, what's the day-to-day maintenance? How long you spending on new releases, security updates, things like that? The customer that Scott mentioned on older version 4, I'm sure they didn't intend to stay on that old version for that long. They just never could allocate the time. There's always pressing issues, there's project work, there's, IT teams are very busy, and sometimes the internal tools are really hard to prioritize spending time on. So be nice just to have that always up, always available, always upgraded. The headaches. So there's kind of a headache factor here. Your system fails at 2 in the morning, you're waking up to resolve that, troubleshoot it, try to figure out what's happened there. Disaster recovery type of scenarios, how are you accounting for that? I kind of liken this to, do you own an old car or a new car? An old car, certainly there's some sentimental value to it. You love it. It does everything you want. But if it breaks, it's your responsibility. New car under warranty, you just take it in. Somebody else deals with it. Maintenance is included sometimes. So very much the new car smell with Opsview Cloud. And then finally, risk. Who on your team is responsible for the monitoring? How long are they going to be in that role? How long are they going to be happy to document things, to make sure it's new people are trained and using that. So somebody good at their job usually is promoted or looks elsewhere, frankly, for employment. So some of the churn that you have with your IT environment can be mitigated as well if you've got a rock solid Opsview Cloud instance there running.
Brilliant, thanks. Thanks, Brent. And so again, TCO, total cost of on-premises. Some things there for you to think about. Back to this this chart here, where we have releases of Monitor jumping along there. And that area under the graph there, as I say, not only is that a place where with Cloud you're getting those additional functions like new BSM, have a look at that. Ops packs for things like UCS, for example. But that total cost of on-prem sort of rolls on as well. So that's another way of thinking about total cost of ownership. It's not necessarily just a point in time. It's something that sort of rolls on until the next release comes out and rolls on, etc. And again, as Brent mentioned, not every customer upgrades on the day that we release. We know that it takes some people days or weeks or months. Occasionally, it takes years. So again, just thinking about those sort of headaches and costs and time and risk. Just sort of have this chart in mind. Should we upgrade to Cloud now, or should we do it in 6 months' time, or should we wait for Monitor 6.4 or 6.5? Actually, hopefully this sort of reinforces that every day, actually, you could be getting access to new functionality, you could be reducing your security risks, you could be making some savings on hardware and power. I thought was an interesting one that Brent mentioned as well. We have one customer who calculated, several $1,000s they were spending on power for the hardware that they were running their monitoring system on, for example. So that does kind of roll on and roll on. So just sort of wrapping up, back to the beginning, move to Opsview Cloud and stop. There's a bunch of things that we will take care of. As I've said, we'll install the patches and hot fixes. We'll make sure that operating systems are up to date. The hardware that the monitoring runs on is ours. It's in the cloud. So we'll take care of that. We'll do all of the upgrades, major, minor. We'll take care of high availability and disaster recovery, and we'll take on those headaches. There'll be one of our guys waking up at 2 a.m. So yeah, there's a bunch of things that you can stop, and as I say, that allows you a little bit of extra time in your very, very busy days to get involved in those projects around business continuity and digital transformation and supporting new ways of working, and at the same time reducing security risks and reducing costs. And tapping into the expertise. So if you want to stop doing a bunch of things and start doing a bunch of things, and you're ready to move or consider further moving from Opsview Monitor to Opsview Cloud, then there's a bunch of ways in which we'd be very happy to help. Very happy to run this webinar again for you individually as a customer if you've got more people you want to share this with. Very happy to share this deck with you. We've got other things that talk about Opsview Cloud, what we'd call a solution sheet. Happy to do a demo. And the demo is going to be interesting because some people will say, well, hold on a minute, that's just like Monitor. And of course it is. But then when you see new BSM, you see the new UCS Ops pack, you start to realize that actually access to some of that functionality is really quite interesting. And again, we're very happy to help describe the benefits of all of this to other people in your organization. Maybe you need to get your manager on board with this. Sometimes it's procurement because the budget sometimes comes in from different places when you start moving things to the cloud. So I think that's probably it from us. Helen, did you want to jump back in?
Hey, thank you, Scott, Brent, for great insight. Yes, we've got a few questions coming through on the chat, the Q&A, and some that have been sent through privately to me as well. So the first question is probably for Brent. Does Opsview Cloud mean moving our hardware service to an Opsview hosted cloud?
Not necessarily. So, we're not looking to co-locate systems and, run them in our data center. What we would do is, optimize those for running in the cloud, in the Opsview Cloud, virtualized systems. So what we would do from your existing configuration is do some configuration backups. We could take, some of the data that you have there and upload that into your new system. So while we wouldn't take your physical server, would certainly take your configuration, all your service checks. So another key point of version 5 to version 6, and certainly Opsview Cloud, is that all of your past service checks that you've written, and for that matter, anything written in Nagios standard format out on the exchange or from other means where you can find that is 100% compatible. So you're not going to lose anything by moving to the cloud. You're just going to gain a whole lot of extra functionality and the ability not to spend time on the care and feeding and really getting value out of the tool.
Just adding to that as well, I was wondering if the question was getting a little bit at, does that mean that the customer's hardware service here are essentially freed up for them to use for other things?
Yeah, certainly. You could repurpose those internal systems. One good use would be a collector. So if you have kind of an older Opsview monitor instance there, we might be able to utilize that in a local collector cluster in that same environment it used to run, and just really point it out to the Opsview Cloud instead of there locally. So I'm sure there's lots of uses. We never turn servers off; we just add more to it, right? That's the way it works.
That's right, Helen.
Thank you. Next question. Data integrity security is important to us and we need to keep the data within Europe. Is that possible?
I'll go ahead and start. And Scott, if you want to add to that. So absolutely, we can pick, we have regionality to our cloud instances. And wherever you happen to be located, if there's some geographical restrictions, governmental restrictions on data sovereignty and where that needs to run, we work with you during our setup phase, getting you onboarded, and we figure out where the best place to run that. Not just for data sovereignty reasons, but also for speed and latency and those things. So we can get that situated just specifically to meet your requirements.
Yeah, that's a good point. Just sort of building on that a little bit. We have noticed, I suppose we've all noticed that data sovereignty is becoming more and more important. So yeah, wherever you want it to reside, we can take care of that. And there are some technical benefits to that as well, as Brent's just alluded to. I think the other sort of the flip side of the same question really is, if we've got collectors, on premises essentially in one way of looking at it, and orchestrators in the cloud, etc. What's happening to the data in between time? So, data encryption whilst it's moving, data encryption at rest, all of those things. So, again, without going into all of the details there, that the simple answer is yes, that's all taken care of. I'm sure you'll have some more detailed questions around that. And again, if you have specific security questions, or you have a security officer that would have a view on this, we'd be very, very happy to talk to them or help you talk to them. We've got lots of assets that talk about security.
Great, thank you both. We've got 5 minutes left and there's 2 questions still to answer. So if you've got any more questions, please post them in that chat facility. Next question, I'm on 542, not me personally, but the question is, I'm on 542. Do I need to upgrade first to 6.3 before I can move to cloud?
No, no, you can go straight to cloud. We'll take care of all of that for you. I don't think there's any. Brent, isn't there real advantages to going to 6.3 and then cloud?
That's the beauty of the service. Is we work with you, we make sure that all the prerequisites are met, and it really is the easy button that you can hit and say, "Hey, Opsview, take care of all this." So we absolutely, from start to finish, get you onboarded and get you running and using it as a service, not a maintained project for you.
Yep, cool.
The last question, I think this one's for Brent. Can you tell me more about the security around the collector?
Sure. So it's we utilize RabbitMQ. RabbitMQ by default uses TLS 1.2 encryption, I believe it is the correct version. So instead of an SSH from orchestrator to collector and using SSH on port 22, you can opt for that RabbitMQ connection. We can also do that. So RabbitMQ runs on several ports. If you don't want to trouble your firewall administrator to open those up, we can, back compatibility with SSH over RabbitMQ. The other thing that's interesting about our collector is we can also account for an air-gapped environment. So we have some high security customers that don't want anybody connecting through their firewall. They can only connect out. So we can tell the orchestrator to make a periodic connection, the collector a periodic connection back to the orchestrator. Once that session is established, we can then utilize that for the orchestrator to push out new service checks that need to be run, gather metrics, things of that nature. So if you do not want connections, inbound connections, we can just utilize that outbound connection as well. So just depends on your requirements. We'd be happy to talk that through with you.
Great, thank you, Brent. One last question has just sneaked in on the private chat through to me. We're 6 months away from renewal on Opsview Monitor. Can we upgrade to cloud now, or do we have to wait for our renewal date? Scott, that's probably for you.
Yeah, there's one word on the planet I hate. It's the word wait. So no, you don't have to wait at all. We're very happy to make that happen technically, and we can have a look at as well at your renewal date and forward credit and all of those good things. So commercially and technically, we can make that happen for you very quickly. So yeah, please don't wait. Just again, security updates, functional updates, all of those things. If you want to get going on those, in the coming weeks rather than sort of 6-8 months away, then yeah, please do get in touch and we can make that happen.
Great, thank you, Scott. I think those are all the questions. There's no more coming through at the moment. One last chance. No. I think Scott, Brent, thank you for presenting today. Thank you everyone for joining us. We will be sending you out the recording very shortly. The next webinar, the 30th of June, will be a sneak peek into BSM 2.0. So I hope you can join us then. Thank you. Have a good day. Bye-bye.
Thanks. Bye-bye.